I just realized I don't have my coffee yet.
Ah,
Uh-oh. You're in for it, Bloom.
without a net.
Sorry about that.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It is pro day time, and Caleb Williams' pro day was yesterday. It is the audible Cecil Lammy and Sigmund Bloom talking about quarterbacks not named Caleb Williams because we know he's going number one overall. We know Keenan Allen was there to fist bump him, right? So that was cool to see. The Bears are going to get their guy after trading away their last guy to the Steelers. We talked about that on the last show. Not that you could have understood me with my God blessed horrible audio at Wyoming Pro Day. Apologize for that, everyone. But Bloom, let's talk about what could be happening because, well, there's a few things. We know number one is Caleb Williams, but the other players not named Caleb Williams, the other quarterbacks, 3 specifically that will go in the top 10. Let's get to them because there's even word now that number 4 is on the block. Yeah, no kidding. Number 5 might be on the block.
Right.
I've got some Giants information I've come across. So let's break this down.
Yeah, see, I think that you got it right. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going to Chicago, and then number 2, we continue to see more, whether it's betting markets buzz towards Jayden Daniels going to Washington and not Drake Maye. And then the next question becomes, where do the Patriots go? And if you like draft conspiracy theories, the Patriots signed KJ Osborne last week, and I think that he was just above the line to be a compensatory free agent to keep their third round compensatory picks intact that they would get for Danielle Hunter and Kirk Cousins. Almost like this is maybe early terms of a trade, right? And maybe it frees up the Vikings to throw their natural third round pick in next year. Of course, since then they've signed Shaq Griffin. We have to wait to hear the terms of that. Quasey in the front office doing the comp pick tango. But the point is, everyone's wondering, well, are the Patriots going to take Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels? Is whether Maye or Daniels is there, is that going to be what makes their decision for them? Is there one they would stay there for and one that they would trade down? Well, for that matter, if it's the Vikings coming up after the Vikings went and got 23 from Houston, would they only come up for a certain quarterback? I thought it was J.J. McCarthy. They don't need to get up to number 3 to get McCarthy, or do they? Or do they?
Right.
We shouldn't assume, right? And then we get to number 4, where how compelling is Marvin Harrison Jr.? Not compelling enough to keep Monty Ossenfort from saying the sign is on. You know, the open sign is on. I think something to that effect, he said. And we saw Arizona last year move down to get Houston's first round pick and then back up to get Paris Johnson, another Ohio State player. And I think it's very reasonable to think about them trading down with the team. Whoever wants J.J. McCarthy, could be the Giants, could be the Broncos, could be the Vikings. Whoever wants J.J. McCarthy, he's going to be the 4th pick. And then come back up, maybe, as you said, Cease, to the number 5, the Chargers. Nice thing what Jim Harbaugh could do at this point, yes, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Are they really going to start Palmer and Quentin Johnston? If they could trade down and get a Jim Harbaugh right tackle. And that just seems to fit most of the moves they've made so far this offseason. And then there is the Giants. Maybe J.J. McCarthy falls to them at 6. Maybe the offers aren't compelling enough for move downs at 4 and 5. Maybe the Giants trade down. The Giants certainly are linked to looking at quarterbacks. Looking at a quarterback, maybe they're the team that trades up. So you lay it all out from 1 to 6, and there's a lot more questions than answers.
A lot of questions here about what's going to happen. And with Jayden Daniels, I think that he's going number 2. I called Jalen Wright the other day. I can't remember what show I was on. I called him like Jalen Smith or something. I was like, oh, for the love of God, my old brain. I need more coffee, Bloom. But anyway, we're not talking about running backs yet today. Although I did have a nice conversation with Matt Waldman the other day.
Ooh.
We got in our running back pre-draft debate that we get into every year, and it's fun and it's exciting. But these quarterbacks are fun and exciting because Caleb, okay, nothing wrong with Caleb. Elite level stuff there, 0 things wrong there. Michael Penix comes into the conversation.
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about quarterbacks that you need in dynasty leagues, the best passer, just passing, could be Michael Penix. I could easily make the argument, even better than Caleb Williams, which Caleb Williams is generational talent, but Michael Penix can absolutely sling it. Michigan game notwithstanding, he seemed to not take a lot of sacks, didn't get hurt, and that's where the Patriots thing comes into play with 3, because from what I know, if they don't get Jayden Daniels, they will move back. They are considering Michael Penix, likely in the 30s. And let's go back to 2018. Rewind it, Bloom. 2018.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th quarterback off the board was Lamar Jackson, and he's the best quarterback that was in that draft. Sorry, Josh. And Baker's been all right. Darnold's a bust. Rosen didn't play. Like, okay, so there's 5 quarterbacks. You have 5 quarterbacks this year. Penix has to be in the conversation, and no matter where he goes, Bloom, he could end up being the best one.
Sure. I mean, if anything, the last few years have reminded us. There was a time I would get on this show and say, everybody's too harsh on the NFL decision makers at quarterback, saying it's mystifying. Scouting quarterbacks, developing quarterbacks, mystifying, because most of the quarterbacks who hit were first-round picks. It was a pretty good shorthand filter that if nobody in the NFL thought a quarterback was worth a first-round pick, chances are he wasn't going to hit. It didn't mean he wasn't going to hit, but chances are he wasn't going to hit. But if we look at recent history of the draft, it is shocking, honestly. When you look at, let's go back to 2022, Kenny Pickett, first-round pick, nothing. 2021, Trevor Lawrence, okay. Zach Wilson, nothing. Trey Lance, nothing. Justin Fields, nothing. Mac Jones, nothing. All top 15 picks. Yes, 2020 looks like a good draft. 2019, we got Daniel Jones. We got Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. 2018, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield's bounced back. But the hit rate's going down if you look at it over the last 5 or 6 years. So we shouldn't necessarily trust teams now. So if Penix falls to the late first or early second, that's far from a death knell. But the other part of the season, and I guess the Patriots kind of messed this up, but you mentioned Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson fell to the end of the first to a good organization. And how many of these stories of these quarterbacks failing is the story of the quarterback and the organization? It's Bryce Young's story. It's the quarterback and the organization failing. It's one failure. They're all parties to it, but it's one failure. So Michael Penix absolutely is somebody we should take a little more seriously if we're just doing some nebulous probability pre-draft value thing, because if it's not the Patriots, there's still a reasonable chance the team that takes him, he is a succession plan, and he's allowed to develop like Jordan Love, another recent success story.
Yeah, and that's why each quarterback is going to be different. And your dynasty leagues, you're going to have to be focused on how quickly do I need this guy to make plays. If it's Penix, he can play right away. If he goes to the Patriots, he should play right away. Bailey Zappi not real popular amongst his teammates either. I knew that about Mac Jones. When I heard that about Bailey, I was like, wow, okay, I guess they're all alojas in New England. But I look at Penix as someone who could play right away. I look at Bo Nix if he goes to the Broncos. The Broncos may be sitting there not able to move up. And I believe, Bloom, we know this business. I believe there is a deal in place, a wink and nod deal, not an actual deal. Okay. I want to be very clear about that. I think there is a deal in place with Minnesota for anybody to be like, hey, if Denver calls, call us. If Denver is offering you something to move up from 12 to 3 or 12 to 4, call us. We've got more. They've got more. Because if it is McCarthy and they do have to move up, which they may not have to, but if they do, if Denver gets crazy about him and Sean Payton loves that guy, well, Minnesota's got the draft capital to basically crush the Broncos' dreams.
Right. It's that immediate draft capital getting number 23. So absolutely. And that's why Monty Ossenfort, and see, this is another larger discussion I love getting into at this time of year. What Monty Ossenfort did last year, traded down when they were on the clock. Will Anderson was there. And obviously that trade didn't necessarily work out. When it happened, people thought they might have the number 1 and number 2 pick. Well, they have the number 4 pick and number 20, whatever, because the Texans got their head coaching hire right. They got their quarterback pick right. And Will Anderson turned out to be pretty good too. They moved back up, though, for Paris Johnson. And why wouldn't you do that against not fantasy football? Well, sure it is. Why can't it be? Why can't you do that? Why can't you say, we're going to trade down because the number 4 pick this year is worth a lot more than the number 4 pick in typical years. It's more like Trey Lance, right? I mean, the number 4 pick, even though Lance was number 3, would they get 3 first? That's the price that Minnesota would move up, right? They give 11, 23 in next year's first.
Yeah.
And then you just come back up, maybe with the Chargers. When you put on the thinking cap for Jim Harbaugh, you're not trying to solve anything this year. I mean, I know you need a wide receiver, but it's okay. It's okay. Actually, in the blueprint of a Jim Harbaugh offense, the right tackle is more important than wide receiver anyway. So why not trade down, get some more draft capital, and they're going to get who they want at 11, and then chances are Arizona can get Marvin Harrison Jr. anyway, and maybe a first-round pick next year. So I love Austin Fort doing this. I hope it becomes an annual tradition.
Yeah, I hope that you get more dynamic thought, rational thought, Bloom.
Sure.
Right? Is there a
Just
drink
play
there?
the draft. Like, step up to the table, throw some chips on the table, just make something happen.
Yeah, make it happen because you can make it happen. And there's still so many old fuddy-duddies in this league with like, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. You can do pretty much anything you want. So who's starting faster? Knicks could start faster. Knicks could start day one, especially if it's Sean Payton. Not that I'm warming up to the idea, Bloom, but I like that he was a jerk to me at the Senior Bowl. I was like, cool, I like that. I've told that story. Penix could start right away. The guys that need seasoning are Maye and McCarthy. So if we talk about Mo, do we know Mo? The momentum of this is Jayden Daniels has all that momentum with the Commanders. Caleb Williams has the momentum. He's been number 1 for 2 years, basically. Now you look at it and you go, okay, I don't want McCarthy starting right away. But if you're Minnesota, you can put out Sam Darnold, right? And let McCarthy sit for a year. If you're Denver, probably starting McCarthy right away. So you want success rate. And here's where I believe it was Bucky Brooks. Correct me if I'm wrong. I tweeted about it yesterday, Bloom, the realm of the lowest common denominator. And I said, hey, I would love a developmental league. I'd love a 7-on-7 league. Let receivers run routes. Let's corners cover. Obviously, you don't develop offensive linemen, but sorry, offensive linemen. That's just the way it is. But this league, you said it just 10 minutes ago. You said this league, the hit rate is going down. Why? They're not developing. You're telling me in the 80s they had better quarterback development? Do you know how many quarterback programs and passing camps and Nike Elite and Elite 11 and Trent Dilfer's yelling at somebody? Like, do you know how many of those things there are now that proliferate around the country? And quarterback hit rate is lower. Maybe it was always low. All I know is they don't take time anymore in this high pressure win now league.
Right.
Nobody takes time. So you'll ruin McCarthy if you put him out there too fast. You'll ruin Maye, especially Maye. And I talked to a former GM a couple of days ago, and I talked to a top quarterback evaluator a couple of days ago, and we were talking about this thing and bringing it up. It's like, okay, you have to allow time for these young players. And with someone like Drake Maye, specifically Bloom, even with the time, I don't know if it'll work out because of what's ingrained in him now and playing hero ball. So you got to get that out of him if I'm talking about Maye specifically. But these teams need to take more time with these quarterbacks. And that's why we're seeing, these quarterbacks not working out.
And again, Jordan Love looms over this conversation as a recent success story. And I know Matt Waldman's name keeps coming up, but Waldman has been very consistent from the beginning talking about this. And I just think that, this is potentially something that organizations, and don't get me wrong, there are quarterbacks. We could really kind of sort quarterbacks into, I think, 3 categories. There's the guys that are ready. And just real briefly to touch on what you said about Nix. And how do you know Nix is ready? Well, he's played in different offenses now and shown that he can learn a new language and pick it up and be fluent in it. And that is, being able to absorb that quickly. I mean, that's part of how you can start as a rookie. And Michael Penix, a stat that's going around a lot now, a good stat, this pressure to sack ratio, right? How often in college, when a quarterback gets pressured, does he get sacked? And actually, I can't remember who it was that put the stat out there. I'll have to look it up and give him a shout out. That a lot of the quarterbacks, and Jayden Daniels is one of these guys, that, some significant percentage of the time that they're pressured, like 20-25% of the time or more, they get sacked. All those guys, Justin Fields is one. This is Chicago Bears fans saying, "Oh, Justin Fields." Michael Penix, 8.3%. Michael Penix knows how to elude pressure and have it not turn into a sack, not turn into a bad outcome. That's another sign that he's ready. And then there's the quarterbacks that aren't ready. And with Drake Maye, it's kind of like Will Levis. Like, you want to see him get back to where he was on track in 2022. With JJ McCarthy, it's a small sample size. There is a third kind of quarterback like Anthony Richardson. Small sample size, but he's going to learn on the job. He needs those reps. And this comes and reps at NFL speed. He can handle it. But this comes back to your original point about these players. Maybe they're not developing because they need reps. And the 7-on-7 league is going to give people reps, like you said. And that goes back to also the practice schedules and off-season practice schedules being cut down. And you've heard a lot of players talk about how this is also a reason. This is even a reason maybe players are getting hurt more often. So I do think the league needs to look at itself. But see, this is not meanwhile, the league's talking about hip drop tackles,
Right.
so which
Right.
is, we want to limit injuries. I'm not trying to belittle that discussion. But, this is not a league that I think is critical of its own process to see how it can improve, because the investment of the players, the total commitment of the players makes the product compelling. But it's again, the NFL is succeeding in spite of itself. And that's why some of these later quarterbacks that maybe either get a little more patience because they're in an organization that is looking at a succession plan. Even Patrick Mahomes didn't play until the end of his rookie year,
Yeah.
I think that we can't just look at these quarterbacks as atomic elements. We have to think about their environment when we project what they're going to do in the NFL.
Yeah, and then it's about fit. I've taken 17 minutes to say that, but it's always about fit in this league. And this league, I think college football is going to have, with the transfer portal and all that kind of stuff, like, college football has been a different sport for a while. Once the NFL figures that out, and they'll have to pay, and this is where I don't think it'll happen, Bloom, because they'll have to pay, and Lord knows they don't want to pay. Although I might have, now that I think about it, I might have an audience to maybe throw my opinion out there in a way that would matter. And I'm not talking about owners meetings coming up this weekend, but like, they'll have to pay for a damn sanctioned NFL passing league. And I don't care if it's 7-on-7, I don't care if it's flag football or what. Like, okay, yeah, fine. These guys need to throw. These coaches need to figure things out. Like, it's not square peg, round hole with some of these players. And because college football is so damn different, how many guys are making pro throws? How many guys are making pro reads? You do see it once in a while. It's one of the reasons why Dane Brugler, the best draft analyst there is, and Matt Waldman and myself, and I'm third on that list, way behind those two. But like, we don't have McCarthy as a first round pick. Why? Because he didn't do it enough. He didn't make those decisions enough. Penix, who has those elite tools, his injury history scares me. He can flip it from anywhere, and he is making pro decisions. Bo Nix, he's had, I believe, our friend Mike Tanier, who is like the best. By the way, everyone go subscribe to his Substack because it's awesome. He called them micro passes, at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. Bo Nix had 150 micro passes last year, 145 completions. And I will say this, Bloom, as a former high school quarterback, which really sounds lame now that I say it, because it usually is, a screen pass is really tough to throw. The guy's just standing there.
Sure.
The defense is coming in. Like, you think it's like an easy, you ain't tossing it, baby. You got to get it there. So like Nix, okay, put him in a screen heavy system. Oh, he was always in shotgun. Yeah, he better be in shotgun. He has a little bunny step. That's why he was mean to me. And I was, I don't know, maybe a jerk to him when I asked him about his comfort under center, because he looks terrible under center with that little extra. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, that extra little bunny step. So it's like, yeah, teams need to figure this out, and leagues will have to pay, because you want an actual sanctioned NFL minor league, whether it's NFL Europe. That's how you expand to other countries. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But get these guys throwing, because we don't have Jake Delhomme or Brad Johnson or Kurt Warner or any of these guys that came from other leagues that are succeeding in this league. We got a lot of bad quarterback play, and you can cover it up with the Chiefs and their dynasty. I said it again, Bloom, but you can't cover. I mean, this league can't succeed our entire life, can it? Right? Since it splashed in the 90s, the league and the success rate can't keep going if they don't get better play from the most important position in all of sports.
And I don't remember who threw this out there. It was a pretty big, like a national writer. I can't remember who. Might bring a Swiss cheese, but I remember the point. And if we really want to start to drill down, Cease, most of these quarterbacks, all the quarterbacks, have quarterback coaches, their own personal quarterback coaches, right?
Yes. Yep.
And the indication is, and this is where you get to, don't assume anything about how NFL franchises go about their business. Don't assume that, well, this is just the simple, rational answer. This is the way they do it. Cease, what percentage of organizations align what they're doing offensively, what they're doing and how they coach a quarterback, what they're doing with their program, with what the quarterback is doing with their personal quarterback coach in the offseason?
Very few.
Yeah. Very,
and in
very
fact,
few.
usually there's a combative nature
Exactly.
between the two.
Which, I mean, it's counterproductive, right? Then it becomes counterproductive, right?
Yep.
So let's just put that out there as part of this picture. So, this is good. It's sort of state of the quarterback position or episode. And with this newest crop, again, you look back at 5 going in the top 15 and only Trevor Lawrence really left standing. And we're not even to the end of these guys' rookie contracts. This year, we're talking about 6 quarterbacks of interest. How many will we be talking about in 3 years?
Yeah, well, who knows? At this rate, it depends on where they land and how quickly they are ready, because defenses are just going to confuse the hell out of them, and coaches are going to get fired. I mean, Caleb Williams has a new coach in what, 2025? Seriously, like maybe it buys him a year or whatever, but so 2026. When's Caleb Williams get his real coach? That's all I want to know. Like, super excited, Bears fans. Hey, awesome! Like, yeah, that's great, fantastic. When's he get a new coach? Because you don't have the right coach, and if you don't have the right coach and the right quarterback, if you don't have that combination, look what happens when I don't have coffee, Bloom. I get all angry.
Well, and that's why your team, the Broncos, hope they have the right coach. We'll see about that quarterback. Might be a year.
Yeah, might have to that or Bo Nix. So, or trade Pat Surtain, which they don't want to do. Anyway, is that a wrap for today, Bloom? Are we done?
Yeah, we were at a little. It's. I don't want to call it a lull, but we're very much, even post second wave of free agency, there's a few interesting things going on. I could sing an ode to the Lions and what they've done in free agency and how they have changed their mindset to where they are in the arc of their franchise. They're thinking like a winning franchise in free agency. Jerry Jeudy got an extension. See, do I even need to tell you the numbers to know what your take on the extension would be?
It's funny. That's what I think it is, but
yeah, exactly.
I'm wishing him well. I hope he gets 1,000 yards, shows off that talent, and learns from the guy that he idolized, Amari Cooper.
Right. So there's another organization, the Browns, buying into the idea that the Broncos' offensive woes were self-inflicted. Dante Foreman also going to Cleveland. That one's interesting just to think about, when's Nick Chubb going to be back? Now they don't have to rush him. Dante Foreman can handle that with Jerome Ford. And then Mike Williams, the Jet. And he said he's going to be ready for week 1. They also signed Tyron Smith. Real interesting structure, basically, where basically $12 million if he plays as much as he did last year, 20 if he has an incredible season and plays all season. And I think that's fascinating. I think what the Saints did with Chase Young is fascinating too, where you have a player they reported it initially as 13 million guaranteed, but it's actually 5 million guaranteed, and then just a big per game bonus, like 400,000 or something like that per game. I love that for the Saints. I love that because Chase Young, he was defensive rookie of the year. His pressure numbers were roughly on par with what he did in his rookie year before he got hurt in year 2. Remember, torn patellar tendon and ACL. Didn't look right in year 3 when he came back. And then it's revealed that he had this stinger, that he's having some neck condition, that he had to have surgically repaired. So, that takes a little luster off the signing. Hopefully he'll be ready for training camp in week 1. But have we really gotten to see Chase Young healthy since the first year and a half of his career? And even last year when he wasn't healthy, playing with this neck issue, his pressure numbers were about again in line with what he did in that rookie year, which was good enough to be defensive rookie of the year. So maybe it's just that New Orleans optimism. I like this structure of a deal saying, hey, you haven't been able to stay healthy. Well, if you stay healthy, you're going to get paid. Others might say that means the coach will say, if you're not helping the team, you're going to sit, so we don't have to pay you.
Yeah, of course, they never want to pay, but they always can pay. Anyway, it is the Audible. It's footballguys.com. Yeah, so there we go. Next week I'll be at the owners meeting, so we'll figure out for Tuesday's show. These are off-air conversations, but I'm like,
it's all right. They're in the room with us. This is what makes the Audible Cecil and Sick different. You're part of the planning meeting. Come on, help us out.
What do you guys think? You think should we pre-record it, or should I try to sneak away and have terrible audio? Like I got to figure that crap out because I will be traveling maybe even more this year. Anyway, we'll keep that, put a pin in that, tell you all about footballguys.com, our, of course, rookie guide you need to check out. I think version 2.0 is out. Yes,
Yeah.
Bloom, is that correct?
Post combine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. So there you go. Check that out. It's available at footballguys.com. It's free. So what are you doing? Go to footballguys.com and check us out. Help us do the YouTube things by like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. We appreciate you all. Follow Sigmund on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammy. The show is at The Audible. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. Eyes up, Bloom. Would you please stay frosty?